Jessica, you made note that how many Republican secretaries of state there are right now, but even going back to 2006, the Bush administration fired 7 U.S. attorneys because they couldn't find evidence of voter fraud. And this is one more piece where the politics comes into it, and Democrats are saying that Republicans are being too zealous about this and making it harder to vote for too many people.
No, they didn't fire them because they couldn't find evidence. The theory is that they fired them because they refused to prosecute it.
Right.
That was presented to them by FBI and other agencies.
And
so that was the dispute.
I also wanted to add, because you mentioned this earlier, I don't impute any partisan motivations for any of these actions. I mean, from the ACLU perspective, because we are the guardian of liberty and we really believe that the right to vote is fundamental, that's really where that's where we're coming from. It's not partisan, and we don't impute any partisan politics.
I think
I'm surprised
ACLU,
to hear you say that. So you don't feel as though Republicans are doing this to try and disenfranchise voters that might not be their voters?
You know, I guess from my perspective, I'm not so concerned about the motivations. I simply don't want the right to vote to be burdened in any way, and we're keeping a watchful eye on anybody, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat, that wants to burden that franchise in any way.
And the whole speculation that Republicans want to suppress the vote is actually very contrary to what's in Republican candidates and advocates' best interest, because 10 years ago in this country, we had 40%, give or take, of registered voters who were Democrat or leaning Democrat. The same percentage of that, 40%, were Republican or leaning Republican, and then we had 20% in the middle, and that's what everybody went for. That was the voter, the independent voter. And now, 10 years later, we've seen a major demographic shift. It's about a third, a third, a third. Mm-hmm. So if Republicans are going to prevail, especially after a very tough couple cycles, they need to pick up that 30%, at least a huge chunk of it. So that's going to include elderly people, minorities, and this isn't just about the stereotypical, you know, uptight conservative white guy. This is about reaching out to other constituencies that have either abandoned the Republican Party or who have never voted Republican.
But I think as these efforts ramp up, we're just 5 months from a presidential election that by most accounts is going to be very tight. And everything is seen through a partisan prism. So everyone is looking for, well, how is this going to affect, you know, my guy or gal, so to speak. So it's very difficult to pull apart, you know, what is proper administration of, you know, a voter registration roll from what is, you know, partisanship, at least in the eyes of many. It's an eye of the beholder kind of thing. And I think a lot of people think that these are partisan driven, whether they are or aren't. I mean, how can you look into someone's heart, you know? But,
right.
but you look at the effects.
The end result
you just
happens
look at
to
the effects.
And the effects happen to be the disenfranchisement of, in Florida, for example, Latino voters that happen to be Democrats. So it's easy to layer
I
that.
disagree with you on the effects, but.
Well, those are the numbers. Those are the numbers.
That's certainly the claim.
Well, and it's only slightly higher. The Democrats who've been purged from the rolls are only slightly higher than the proportion in the electorate. It's really more about Hispanics, African Americans, and independents.